Pressed on the following show are not necessarily those of WPSL, but we are the ones that have encouraged you all along since the beginning to like and share this show on your favorite social media and with all your friends and neighbors. Because it's time for the African American Scene, presented by independent insurance agent Rudy Howard and hosted by Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. Oh, Lord, I certainly wanted to go in a different direction tonight, but the facts of what's going on has pushed me in another direction. First, let me start by this. What happened in Fort Pierce is a disgrace. There is no excuse that can be offered for what took place in the park. And I'm going to say something that's probably going to get me in trouble with some of my friends. There has to be some culpability. While in the past, there have not been any shootings, there have been fights routinely that occurred after the parade on Martin Luther King Day. And although that parade is a certain sense of pride for the city of Fort Pierce, I have participated in it. My son has participated in it. If they can't do anything about the violence that seems to break out inside the park after the event, they need to stop it. Now, you can send me all the nasty Facebook messages you want. You can make all the nasty phone calls you want, but I'm telling you right now, if you can't do anything about the violence that continues to break out at the end of the parade, it should be stopped. And there needs to be some culpability for those that were there who did not provide for enough security given the history that the park has had. My phone number is 340-1590, 340-1590. Okay. We're going in three subjects tonight. And if this is the first time you've heard me, I introduce a subject, I provide some facts and commentary, and then I ask for your feedback. Recently, I haven't had much feedback. It's almost as if somebody has told y'all not to call me anymore, but that's okay too. I'll continue to do what I can to try to stimulate some thinking and some discussion about topics that sometimes are very uncomfortable. This business by Ron DeSantis that the state is blocking the new advanced placement course on African American studies. I can't tell you the amount of communication that I've gotten from all over the country, California, New York, New Jersey, Washington, D.C., all with the same question. What is wrong with your governor? Why would he take such a stand in 2023? About a year ago, I wrote a letter to the editor that was published. And one of the points that I made in that letter is, how much do we have to do to show that we love this country and that we are patriots? We, more than any other group that's come here, I am American down to the bone marrow of my body. That is who I am. I am an American. I just happen to be Black. I love this country. I would fight and die to protect this country. But this country has issues. And I'm going to speak out on those issues. You may get mad at me and you may think that I don't like white people, which is not the case. Anybody that knows me know that's not the case. But there are issues that need to be dealt with. This statement by DeSantis to stop an advanced placement course in African American studies is an insult and an affront to African Americans in this community and in this state. Let me remind you, the first person that died in the American Revolution, Crispus Attucks, was a Black man. We fought in the Civil War. We fought in the Civil War with hand-me-down equipment, half the wage of white soldiers. We fought in World War I under same circumstances in segregated troops with limited availability to go out and do the thing we were trained for, but still served honorably. We served in World War II in the Tuskegee Airmen, a Black regiment that flew fighter pilots that were all officers, literally begged to be allowed to get up and fight the Germans in the sky. And once allowed, they still have a distinguished record of escorting bomber planes with the least amount of casualty than any other squadron in World War II. Yet those officers were not allowed to go into officers' quarters. And that was an indignity that they had to endure while still willing to put their life on the line for America. And I fortunately had the opportunity to meet one who we had right here in this community who has since passed. And there's not a single one of them that wouldn't have done it over again, even though they had to face those difficulties being Black men in the Air Force. We then went in large numbers and served in Vietnam. So what I want to say to you, for those of you who may think that he is your hero for taking this stand, how in the devil can you teach history and not talk about the contributions that Black people have made to make America what it is? Over and over and over, we have tried our best to try to show you our love of the country, because you know what? Here's what you got to get for Americans like me. I don't know anything about Africa. And Africa doesn't know anything about me. We have been here since 1619. I've been here for like over 600 years. My ancestors have been here. So what am I? I'm an American. I'm just an American that happens to be Black. I have no allegiance to any other country. I guess I could try to get Henry Louis Gates to find my roots to see if I could find something different. I toyed around with Ancestry and I couldn't go back far enough to find anything other than my great grandmother and great grandfather. But what I want you to know is there is nothing that should make you hesitant to talk about the contributions that Black people have made to America. And I've said this before, so if you heard me say it, then I'm just going to say it again anyway. I firmly believe from the bottom of my heart that if there was common knowledge by all people about the contributions that African Americans have made, I think it would extinguish some of the discrimination, prejudice, and bias people have about Black people. I really do. I have said this before, and I'm saying it again. I really think that that would be a light and a beacon that would help people understand that there is nothing to fear from Black people because we have given the blood in this soil. There's a whole lot of Black blood in the soil of America and blood on the shores in Europe from where they fought and died. So to not want to teach African American history, not in a regular course, in an advanced placement course, which is like a college course. And what is it that college wants you to do? I know for me that one of the benefits that I got was it expanded my thinking. I went from a very small world of thought to a very large world of thought because I was challenged to think about things in a different way, which is what I try to do for you, which was done for me. Think about things in a different light. And we have a caller,
Winnie,
on line 1. And is that Winnie? I can't hardly hear her, Cliff.
Take that for low.
Okay.
Like our spot.
I'm sorry, Winnie, how you doing?
All right, good. Who's gonna take Nancy Pelosi's spot? They gonna be McCarty or who?
Well, right now it is McCarty took her spot, yes. But in the Democratic leadership side, it is Hakeem Jeffries. He's the leader of the Democrats in the House.
They have 2 speakers. They have 1 speaker.
Only 1 speaker. The majority party gets to be the speaker. And then you have the leader of the minority party, which Hakeem Jeffries is the leader of the minority party, with the idea that if the minority party comes into power, Jeffries would be in line to become the Speaker of the House.
He'll be alive.
Yes, I would think that the odds of him becoming Speaker, if the Democrats take power, are very, very good.
They take. Kind of. I hear some of 2 different things. When they gonna have Harriet Tubman the $20 on the dollar bill?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. They're trying to put Obama on the $20 bill?
Harriet Tubman.
Oh, that's what I thought. Yeah. Oh, you know what?
That's supposed to take place.
Trump stopped that. So I don't know if that's going to be under Biden to be re-implemented, but Trump stopped her from being on the $20 bill.
Oh, he stopped it. I wonder what had happened. That's bad.
Yeah, that's what happened with that.
All right, take care. Okay, have a good day.
Okay, Winnie, thank you. Again, that phone number is 340-1590, 340-1590. And listen, this is not just a Black thing. You, who happen to be white, should also be very proud of the sacrifices that Black people made for this country, because that was not just for Black people, that was for white people too. It was the fight for the freedom of all American people. So there should be a sense of pride in you as well for the contributions that African Americans have made in this country. I feel like I'm getting already onto Black History Month, but it's just that this DeSantis thing has just got me so upset. And I've heard from so many people all over the country, Black and white. I told you, I'm telling, honest to God, this is who I've gotten communication from. California, New York, New Jersey, DC, and they all asking me the same thing. What is wrong with your governor that in 2023, a governor would try to prohibit the teaching of African American history? Wow. Just think about that for a second. Don't think about it just as a Black person. Think about that as a white person, that this governor does not want kids to know about the contributions of African Americans. Now, I'm just going to get you to think about this too. Think about what that does in the development of your kids. Because let me share with you my own little story. And I've probably said this before, and if you heard it, then just close your ears. When I was in high school, the only thing I knew was that we picked cotton. That's about it. I didn't know much else. So at 18 years old, I didn't have a high level of self-esteem because I was wondering what it is that we had contributed to America. Then I get to college and I take an African American Studies class in my first year. And I find out about all of these things that we had done, from inventions to legislation and fighting in wars. And my self-esteem quadrupled, because all of a sudden I was like, okay, I belong here. I'm a part of this whole thing. So just imagine if that happened to me, little Black suburban kid who had felt an esteem deprivation due to a lack of information. Imagine what it does to a white kid who doesn't know anything about our history. That can't be helpful. Can't be. I would encourage you to call DeSantis and register your displeasure with his decision about teaching Black history in an AP class. Now, and also an AP class, he's not even trying to do it in, they're not even trying to do it in all classes. They're trying to do it in AP classes, which as you know, those are college-bound kids. And the number one thing they try to do when you're in college, like I said before, they try to give you subjects and thoughts that make you really expand your thinking. So enough of that. If you want to call in and comment, that number is 340-1590. My next, here is injustice defined. Injury, wrong, grievance, mean an act that inflicts undeserved hurt. Injustice applies to any act that involves unfairness to another or a violation of one's rights. The injustice suffered by lower classes. Injury applies in law specifically to an injustice for which one may sue to recover compensation. Liable considers an illegal, considered a legal injury. So that's injustice. You know, we often hear that discussion about justice and injustice, and I thought it was important for you just to get the Webster definition of injustice. Now, I have this article, Racial Justice in the 21st Century. And this article explores some of the issues associated with racial justice. Many groups have suffered insidious discrimination in America, and some still do. In addition to people of African descent, women, gays, Latinos, Jews, Muslims, Catholics, and many other religious groups, atheists, Irish, Germans, Italians, especially during wartime, Asians, and to one extent or another, virtually every ethnic immigrant group, as well as the disabled, have all suffered grievously and unjustly from insidious discrimination in employment, housing, education, public accommodations. Such discrimination has limited those opportunities that are supposed to be part of the American ethos. Let me take a little break, and then we're going to come back. And again, that number is 340-1590. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
You're listening to the African American scene on WPSL, the talk of the Treasure Coast. Rudy will be taking your calls. 340-1590 is the number, and he'll be right back. IRSC is at home against Florida Southwestern Wednesday with the ladies at 5:30, the men at 7:30. Saturday, the ladies tip against Florida National University at 2, followed by the men versus Mid-Florida Academy. The Magic host Boston Monday, traveling to the Heat. Friday, hosting Chicago on Saturday on WPSL. The Heat host Boston on Tuesday on WSTU. IRSC Magic and the Heat are all brought to you by Indian River State College Athletic Department, Nice Air, Hoskins, Turco, Lloyd & Lloyd, St. Lucie Draft House, Seacoast Air Conditioning, Stimmels of Stewart, and Florida Blue.
Hi, this is Rudy Howard, your independent insurance agent. I now specialize in Medicare, health insurance, and small group insurance. That number is 475-8856. Same great service, more flexible hours. Just give me a call, 475-8856.
It's NFL Championship weekend on both WPSL and WSTU. Sunday, it's the NFC Championship game. Westwood One's coverage begins at 2, followed immediately by the American Football Conference at 6 on both WPSL and WSTU, with the winners going to the big game in February. The NFL is brought to you by estate planning attorney Max Stuckey, St. Lucie Draft House, Nice Air, St. Lucie Battery and Tire, Hoskins, Turco, Lloyd & Lloyd, Seacoast Air Conditioning, Stimmels of Stewart, and Mark Breckpill, CPA.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie.
And now, back to the African American scene with Rudy Howard.
And we have Clayton on line 1, and I think I know who this is.
Good evening. How you doing?
Good, my friend.
I'm doing well. That was very interesting about your governor, DeSantis, and AP courses.
Yeah.
And as a retired teacher, I was a teacher of AP, but I taught AP chemistry. And I'll speak on that first. What AP courses do, not only do they get college credits, but they also enlighten a child more than they would for those who graduate from high school. So it's a greater enlightenment of them.
Yes,
So
sir.
what I found very interesting is that I went because it's been quite a few years since I've been in education. But when I went on the site for the AP college exam, and if you you will see that there are AP courses in Spanish and culture. There are AP courses in Chinese and culture, and I can't remember those right now. But there are others for other ethnic groups. So I don't understand how, and there probably should be more in just about every ethnic group there are in this country.
Yeah, good point. And just for my listeners' benefit, Clayton lives in New York. So he's one of those phone calls that I got about what is wrong with your governor.
But, it was interesting. So I did read about what his objections were.
I did.
And what I found is that his objections are objections that would explain African Americans and their culture and what they've been through. Which, if someone understands a group of people, they will know how to work with them.
Absolutely.
So therefore, what he says is not valid now. It's supposed to be in line with you all's woke law. that you said about it. But what I'm saying is that's all part of his thing. That's all part of what he's talking about. I tell you, as far as I'm concerned, this is just pure downright racism. You can put it any way you want, just plain and simple. I don't know by others, but why would you want to have that label in the state that you live? What does that say about the individuals who live in the state?
Does not say very good things about us. And I think you're really hard pressed to not call this racist. Now, I got a lot of Republican listeners who are going to say, how can you call that racist? And if you really closely examine what Clayton's telling you and what I've been telling you, there is little else you can come to as far as a conclusion is concerned. But thank you, Clayton, very much for calling.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Evening.
Okay, you too. But of all those groups that I've mentioned, only those of African descent were captured in their homeland, brought here against their will, sold into slavery, fundamentally dehumanized, and had their family structure brutally broken. And only African Americans following slavery were subject to Jim Crow laws for an additional 100 years. Now, one of the things that I've had many debates with conservatives about is, when are you going to get over it? Okay. That, when you add the Jim Crow to the slavery period, you're talking about 400 years. There are Black people that lived and died and never knew anything but disparate treatment for their entire lifetime. Now, the net effect of that is been damage to our family unity. And I openly admit this, and some would not want to admit this out loud. Our family unit was broken, and it caused a great deal of trust factors between us as a group of people, which is different than any of the other any others that have come here to this country. Now, based on skin color and national origin, opportunities were stifled, ambitions were suffocated, especially in the young, and imposed inequalities far more severe and more durable than any suffered by any other discriminated against group. So the African experience has been unique, and the damage still exists. I would tell you that we have healed quite a bit just in my lifetime from what we were when I was a kid. There has been some healing, and there certainly has been some improvement. Anybody to say that things have not improved is just an out and out liar. Things have improved, but we still have damage that needs to be healed. And that's the part that my conservative friends just seem to not understand. They think it's that, hey, that was back there, and you should be over it. And well, let me give you a little thought. The Civil Rights Act was in 1964. Okay? That was in 1964. Followed by the Fair Housing Act, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and the Fair Housing Act of 1968. Now, if you didn't know it, until the Fair Housing Act of 1968, I don't care how much money you made as a Black person, there was areas where you were not going to be able to live, even if you could afford to live there. And if you did buy a house there, there's a strong likelihood they would bomb you or burn your house down. So these are the kinds of things that we have had to deal with as far as injustices are concerned. Over intense and often violent opposition with much courage and more than a little bloodshed, the civil rights movement had succeeded by 1968 in dismantling the legal infrastructure of Jim Crow and replacing it with a legal infrastructure designed to ensure legal equality and remedy both individual and systematic instances of discrimination. And despite the enormous difficulties inherent in the enforcement efforts that followed the passage of these laws and the much too slow pace of enforcement, it is fair to say the regimen of legalized discrimination based on skin color no longer existed at that formal legal equality at that point. Establishment, though, of these legal remedies were not a be-all and end-all of itself. Because what was discovered as there was an attempt to implement these laws, there had become a hard shell of what was taking place in the past. So as those laws came into play, and we have Vincent on line one. Yes, Vincent.
Hey, Rudy.
Yes.
This is Vincent. How are you?
Oh, my other friend. What's up, Vince?
I'm a little late to the podcast, but you know, I got to. I heard the conversation you had with Clayton. So, but living here in Florida and experiencing all this stuff that's going on around us, and the comment I want to make is this whole thing about it's just a big dog whistle to the nation. When a governor stands up and says, come to Florida where wokeness comes to die. And it not only is it's terrible, it shows you just who this person is. And it's all out racism. Now, the other comment I want to make is people that hear this dog whistle and say nothing or do nothing are complicit.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I think that has to be addressed. And because if you do not get people to acknowledge that this is a problem, then nothing will get done. Black people can't do this alone.
Nope.
I mean, see, white people and people, and non-white people, other than black, if it doesn't affect them, they don't care. So question would be, how do you get them to see the value of what's going on, and that it impacts them also? Maybe not short term for some, but certainly long term for all of us. What we all have to realize that we're all in this together in humanity.
Yeah.
So I pose that question to you and to your audience. how do you get people that don't have any skin in the game because they're white or of other national origin that's not affected? How do you get them to understand that this impacts them?
Well, we have to try, because the remedy is not, as you've said, made a very true statement. It is not a remedy that Black people can resolve on their own. We need our white brothers and sisters who feel that this is an unjust or a inappropriate application for our state to speak up. I challenged everybody earlier to call the governor and register their dissatisfaction with his application of this policy of prohibiting the teaching of Black history in an AP course. And you know what? As Clayton said, it's not like he even is trying to stop it from routine teaching. An AP course, as you know, too, is an advanced placement for those kids that are headed for college.
Right.
So what's the point? You know, but certainly, I certainly agree with you. I got to have my white brothers and sisters who sense the unfairness and injustice of what he's doing to speak up.
Yeah. My other comment I want to make is recently I saw an interview with Harry Belafonte, and he was speaking on, he had a conversation with Martin Luther King before he passed, about a week or so before he passed. And he said, "Martin, what's the matter? You look worried. You look concerned." And Martin said to him, he said, "I don't know whether where this thing is going to go." He said, "I see integration happening." And he said, "Sometimes I wonder whether that's a good thing or a bad thing." And the reason I say that because he said it's because of the immorality of the country and where it's headed. I found that to be an interesting comment, and all that ties in with this tribalism and all the other stuff that's going on around us. That, of course, affects things like this.
Agreed.
What would be your thoughts in terms of how this has impacted in the certainly last 3 or 4 years in terms of where the country is headed? Because the larger issue is racism. I mean, people don't want to address elephant in the room.
Yeah. Well, here's what I can say, and you and I are from the same generation. What I saw happen under Trump, prior to Trump, those people who maybe had some animus toward people of other skin colors and other ethnic backgrounds had pretty much decided that it was probably improper to speak that out loud. And I think Trump gave them a sense of freedom to come out and be boisterous about their stand as far as that is concerned. What I think, though, is those that have allowed that to fester have filled those people with a lot of improper information that's allowed them to brew in the sentiment of hatred and prejudice. And if you get, like, I'll give you an example about or 3 or 4 months ago, I was in Walmart working with my Medicare, and I had a lady tell me she dislikes all Democrats. And I said, really? She said, yes. I said, tell me why. She said, Democrats don't believe in borders. I said, I don't know any Democrats that don't believe in borders. And she said, well, Democrats just believe in giving people money. I said, Democrats believe in helping people, but they don't believe in giving people money. By the time we finished with the conversation, she said to me, well, I didn't understand that Democrats felt like that because they feel some of the same way I do. And I said, well, hello.
Right, exactly.
And I think therein lies a very significant problem, and the problem that I try very hard to address each week here on the show. Although some people get very angry with me for dealing with the topics that I deal with, it is an attempt to try to open the door and open the mind of people to think in a manner that they hadn't thought about before. So,
Okay.
well, thank you so much for calling, my friend.
All right. Well, I'm very interested in terms of hear what your audience has to say about all this.
Yes. Well, that number is open, 340-1590. Thanks again, Vince.
Okay, my man.
Alrighty. You know what the article says is that the heroic and revolutionary achievement of the civil rights movement of the mid-20th century was to break apart and remove that hard outer shell. But when it did, to deep disappointment of advocates for racial justice, we discovered that inside had assumed the form of the shell too many decades of constraint had robbed it of elasticity. The deformation had become calcified. Moreover, the obligation to do more must be upon the society as a whole. So, the society as a whole must buy into the idea of trying to resolve this dilemma called racial injustice. And folks, I'm going to be leaving you a little early tonight because I have another Zoom meeting and some of my attendees might be on here listening to this show. But I hope that I've at least caused some of you to give some thought to some of the issues that I've raised, especially with respects to DeSantis, because that's such an insulting and an immoral thing that he's done. While I know there's going to be others out there that applaud him for doing it, I hope you give some thought to why that really doesn't make sense. And I hope that I enlightened you about why. But I'd like to thank you so much for listening to the African American Scene. God bless and be safe. And I will see you next week right here for the African American Scene.
Archives of the African American Scene are on YouTube. Go to WPSLTV.com. It'll take you directly to our YouTube presence and look for the African American Scene. We got years of these shows that have been on. And of course, we thank you for listening too. This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.